Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. I am sitting here in the garden in the town of Tuban in East Java, and I am very happy because the environment is very nice here, very cool, and I am sitting to the very next jackfruit here next to me. Very nice fruit, also nice tree, very cool over here. So in this very nice environment, we want to talk about very nice topic as well. I hope that you will enjoy the topic that I am going to speak about in about 15 minutes. The topic that I want to speak about in this particular episode is about a person by the name of Abdurrahman Wahid, better known as Gus Dur. Now, Gus Dur was very well known in the country and also abroad. He was the fourth president of the Republic of Indonesia. So in that regard, and as a president, he was very famous not only in Indonesia but also in many other parts of the world. Gus Dur was born in the town of Jombang in the year 1940. His grandfather was Hashim Ash'ari, and Hashim Ash'ari was the founder of Nahdlatul Ulama, and Nahdlatul Ulama is the largest Muslim organization here in Indonesia as well as in the world, considering that the membership of this Nahdlatul Ulama reaches about, or rather this Nahdlatul Ulama has more or less 60 million membership in Indonesia and also abroad. So this is very large, very large organization. If you come to Indonesia, you will find the branches of this organization all over the country, in Java, on the island of Java, Sumatra, and other part of the country. And also Nahdlatul Ulama has a lot of schools, universities, hospitals, and so many other things that they have. So the founder of this Nahdlatul Ulama, this organization, is Hashim Ash'ari, and Hashim Ash'ari was the grandfather of Gus Dur Abdurrahman Wahid. Gus Dur's father was Wahid Hashim, and Wahid Hashim was also very prominent religious leader. He was appointed a minister of religious affairs during the time of Sukarno, but he passed away at a very young age, at the age of 34. When Gus Dur was still young, he pursued an education at the secondary, I think, at the secondary level. At the secondary level, he studied in the town of Yogyakarta. I think he was 14 years old. When he was 14 years old, he studied in the town of Yogyakarta, about, I think, 3-hour drive from where he was born, from Jombang. And interestingly, the school that he went to in this town of Yogyakarta was a Catholic church-run school. This school was run by the Catholic Church in the town of Yogyakarta. This is very interesting, considering that Gus Dur was born and raised within a very conservative, traditional Muslim. His father was Kiai, as we call it here. His grandfather was Kiai. Kiai is a traditional religious leader, like ulama. And his grandfather got, or rather has, pesantren. Pesantren is a like Islamic boarding school where students live and studied 24 hours in the school. They stay and they sleep in the school, they eat in the school, and they study Islamic sciences. Gus Dur was born and raised in this kind of environment. So it was very interesting that he joined the Christian school in the town of Yogyakarta. But this means that during very early age, Gus Dur was already familiar with the religious diversity that the country has, and he was also trained during the very early age how to live peacefully, coexistentially with other people of other faiths. And it was also during this time when he studied at this Christian school that he studied English, and this opens up his mind. On this note, I believe that the process of opening up the mind of Gus Dur took place during his study at this Christian school, meaning that it was this Christian school that helped Gus Dur to open up his mind, not only to learn about Islam, but also about other cultures, other civilization, and also other languages. And that's exactly what happened. When he studied at this school, he learned English very well, and also he started to read at this very young age. He started to read many European books by European scholars. And he read, for example, the books by Karl Marx, Das Kapital, for instance, Lenin, What is to be Done, and books by many philosophers of Western origin. So he was familiar then with the ideas and the thought of these people, and therefore when he conversed with Christians, he would be familiar with the Christian theology. When he conversed about philosophy, Western philosophy, he was well versed in Western philosophy. When he speaks about Islam, he was a master in Islamic sciences. After, I think at the age of 20, when he finished his study at that Christian school, he went to Al-Azhar in Cairo to pursue his education in Islamic sciences. So it was the beginning of his journey in Al-Azhar. It was the beginning of his journey to deepen his knowledge concerning Islamic sciences. What is interesting is that Al-Azhar does not make him happy. Because Al-Azhar, in his view, cannot offer anything to him. He was a kind of a man of exploration, and I have an impression that normative Islamic sciences do not appeal to Gus Dur. And Al-Azhar is the center of Islamic knowledge, but the sciences that are taught at Al-Azhar, in Al-Azhar, are normative sciences. Fiqh, for example, jurisprudence, then Sharia, then language, literature, history, Quranic exegesis, prophetic tradition. These are the normative sciences that are taught at the traditional schools like Al-Azhar. So Gus Dur does not, or rather was not interested in these normative sciences on the one hand, also not interested in the way Al-Azhar carried out the education and also the instruction to the student. And therefore Gus Dur stayed only couple years, I think, not more than 2 years in Al-Azhar, and then he dropped out. He left Al-Azhar to Baghdad in Iraq. In Baghdad, he joined Baghdad University to also study Islamic sciences, but he wasn't happy as well in Baghdad. Baghdad was much the same like Al-Azhar in terms of offering education in Islamic sciences, and therefore he left Baghdad to European countries. He went to Canada, he went to America to join leading universities in these countries, but also he failed to join these leading universities for many reasons. However, he did not finish his study in Al-Azhar, nor did he finish his study in Baghdad, nor did he finish his study in European countries. Then he went back to Indonesia. To this point, I have to make it clear that Gus Dur does not have an academic degree. Gus Dur does not have academic degree. So he left the country that he visited. He went back to Indonesia before he could finish his degree. He did not finish at Al-Azhar in Baghdad or even in many other European countries. He did not finish his degree, so he does not have any academic degree. But that does not make him inferior. The fact that he doesn't have academic degree doesn't make him kind of upset or frustrated. Also does not make him rather become the prominent leader in Indonesia. Not long after he came back to Indonesia, he joined the Islamic boarding school, what we call it here pesantren, in Jombang, the school that his grandfather established to teach in this particular school, Islamic school or pesantren. Then after a few years, he left to Jakarta. Now, it is in this period, in the period where he lives in Jakarta, it is during this period that he became to gain prominence in Indonesia, religiously, politically, and intellectually. That is to say that Gus Dur was a man of multiple dimensions. He was a master in Islamic sciences, not normative sciences, because we don't hear him, we don't know him as a master in Quranic exegesis, for instance, or in fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence, or in Islamic prophetic tradition, for instance. We never knew him as a master of the sciences. So we have to be clear in this regard that Gus Dur wasn't traditional ulama in the sense that he wasn't good at traditional sciences of Islam. But he was a very critical man. He was a very genius man. He is a man of deep contemplation, and therefore he wrote many books on social issues as far as Islam is concerned. He wrote a book, for example, about Islam, My Islam, You Islam, Our Islam. That is the title of the book. And he discussed many issues, contemporary issues relevant to Islamic society. So his approach to Islam is rather social, intellectual, and not normative or traditional. So as a religious scholar, he was acknowledged as one of the leading scholar the country has ever had, and he was very genius. He knows, issues concerning Islamic contemporary Islamic thought, and also Western philosophy, Western thought concerning Islam and religion. He knows all these things, and he was on very close relationship with many scholars of the world, from the Western world, also from the Arab world. I know I met once a very leading philosopher from Egypt. His name is Hassan Hanafi. He was my teacher. Hassan Hanafi told me that he had a very close relationship with Gus Dur, with Abdurrahman Wahid, so much so that Hassan Hanafi called Gus Dur my brother, and Gus Dur called Hassan Hanafi also my brother. So that is how close the relationship was. So Gus Dur was a man of he was a religious scholar of the first degree, a very prominent religious leader, a religious scholar. But he was also a leader. He was also a leader, and we know that before became the president, Gus Dur was a chairman of Nahdlatul Ulama. And as I said before, Nahdlatul Ulama is the largest Muslim organization in Indonesia and perhaps in the world, considering that it has over 60 million members in the country. So very, very large. Gus Dur was chairman of this organization for 3 periods, from 1980 something to 1999, before he became the president. And in 1999 he was appointed the 4th president of Republic of Indonesia, and actually he was the first president, and I think the only president until now, that has the Islamic traditional background. Our president, other than Gus Dur, they were educated in government school, in the Western universities, but Gus Dur was educated and raised in a very traditional Islamic family and Islamic education. So Gus Dur was and still is the only president of Indonesia with traditional Islamic background. Now, it wasn't long that Gus Dur became the president, for only 2 years, and after that he was put out of the presidency for many reasons. Gus Dur was also man of culture. He was interested in culture, in art, in music, in film. And while he was a chairman of the largest Muslim organization, which is NU, Nahdlatul Ulama, he was also at the same time head jury of an Indonesian film festival, and it was controversial for religious scholar like Gus Dur to become a head jury for the Indonesian film festival. But that tells us how talented Gus Dur was. He was not only interested in Islam, in rituals, in Islamic sciences, but he was also interested in something which seems to many Muslims has nothing to do with Islam, which is film. And he was well versed in film. He knows many actors, Hollywood, Bollywood, so this kind of film, this kind of things. So that is the interesting things of Gus Dur. And he was also a man of he had a very good sense of humor. So he can persuade people by by telling them jokes, by telling them, humors, so many humors. He passed away in 2009, and so many people did miss him because the way he communicated with people is very relaxed, very slow. Although he was a great man, but he speak to ordinary people with simple language. But he was also missed by the elites, especially in the time where there is so many tension and conflict, so many confrontation between various schools of thought in the country, between various say powers in the country. What I am referring to is the fact that, like in many other parts of the world, in Indonesia is also a home of what we call transnational Islamic movement. The Salafis, the Wahhabis, the extremists, the radicals, the fundamentalists, they were also here in Indonesia, and we never knew when they strikes. But in terms of debate, we already knew who they are because they emerged on the YouTube channel, they had TVs and everything, and they are so strong, so powerful, but at the same time they are also threatening, because it seems clear that they are exclusive. They claim to be the only right Muslim. Other Muslims are not right. Other Muslims are infidels. If other Muslims are infidel, then non-Muslims are even more infidels. Because other Muslims are infidel, so it is legitimate to kill them and so forth. So there is a very frightening and threatening development in Indonesia, like in many other parts of Islamic world, where the fundamentalists, the radicals, the Salafis, the Wahhabis, they gain momentum very quickly, very fast. So in this very condition where we are worried about where this country is heading, I think we miss a person like Gus Dur, who can lead us toward a better future, and who can deal with this very complicated issue with a very easy and simple way. Gus Dur was also believed to be a saint by so many people. He died as I said, in 2009, and he is buried in the town where he was born, the town of Jombang. And at the moment, the graveyard of Gus Dur is visited daily by thousands and thousands of people, Muslims and non-Muslim. My wife is from Jombang, and my wife's house is only 1 kilometer away from the graveyard of Gus Dur, and I know every day that there are so many buses, hundreds of buses came to the graveyard of Gus Dur to visit the graveyard, to pay homage, to pay respect to Gus Dur. And many of them, of these visitors, believe that Gus Dur is a saint. He wasn't ordinary people. So by visiting him, these many people believe that they will get the barakah, the grace of visiting the graveyard of Gus Dur. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.